Yeah. Siege. Riley. Taz. Yeah. Set me free and give me death, there ain't no other choices. When I lay down to go to sleep, I keep on hearing voices. Little whispers in my head, man, is you fake or loyal? Why no water, that designer, baby, pick your poison. These little demons living underneath my bed, creeping. Know the real, monster lives above them all, sleeping. That subtle breathing in your closet every single evening. Thought you never see me again, looks can be deceiving. When they hear the sound of the drum, they'll be saying, oh Lord, here they come. Yeah, here we come. Here we come. Here we come. Here we come. I used to think that people die because they wicked. Nowadays people wanna see you dead because you gifted. Been ready for my tomb since I came up out the womb. So no matter what, I'm coming back and paying you a visit. Saw it coming, I predicted, but y'all wouldn't listen. No, you can't protect your riches if you never burn bridges. Flip pages, went places, made changes, still dangerous. Now I'm back, altercation, hold still, I make it painless. How it feel, baby? When you say you love me, is it real, baby? Full speed, both hands on the wheel, baby. Young Taz coming from the Mobile, baby. You know the drill, baby. Yeah. And when you hear the sound of the drum, we'll be saying, here we come. Yeah, here we come. Hey, here we come. Here we come. Here we come. Yeah, here we come. Hey, here we come. Hey, here we come. Here we come.
Well, this is it. This is the last weekly challenge for the first Phorm 2018 Athlete Search. It's been one hell of a ride, and I have a lot of people to thank for getting me here. First, I want to accomplish the goal, which is telling my story and my motivation. My story is simple on the outside. I grew up with two loving parents. I went to private schools, played sports, I went to college, and now here I am. But if you look a little bit closer, you'll see the hidden struggles. My parents divorced when I was 6. I almost got kicked out of grade school for being a piece of shit. Almost flunked out of high school. Never had a better than a 2.5 GPA till I reached college. I was never a star athlete, and the fear of failure and disappointment drove me to quitting. And Benedictine was also not my college of choice. It was actually never even one that I thought about going to at all, but it was the only one I got accepted to. My story is far from a disaster. I hope that's known. There are people out there who would kill to have what I have, and I understand that. I'm grateful for every day that I wake up, and for anyone who might be struggling with life right now, I hope you are grateful too. We all have so much to live for. Even when life seems like it sucks, it's really not that bad. I do want to expand on one part of my story though, because it does have a lot of significance with motivation. And the big part of it comes down to quitting. My family is filled with coaches, and one high school coach of over 30 years happens to be my father. What do you know? When I was young, like until I was about 13, I fucking hated sports. I was short, fat, uncoordinated. Okay, like, it's not like a whole lot of that has changed, but that's beside the point. I just hated the idea of sports. All I wanted to do was play with my freaking Yu-Gi-Oh cards and drink Dr. Pepper. But in 8th grade, God was like, nah, I don't think that's really for you. So I grew 6 inches and I leaned out. At that moment, I finally realized that sports were actually pretty cool. I started playing more on and off the field and court. Started becoming friends with the same little motherfuckers that made fun of me in the years past. I started becoming a typical 13-year-old douchebag, and I fucking loved it. I went on to Rockers High School, the same place my father graduated from. I played B-team freshman football, and I loved it. but I knew I wanted more. I tried out for basketball, and I was one of the 24 that made the team out of the 80 that tried out. This was my big freshman success that led me to believe I could really do anything I wanted to if I just put the work in for it. By the time I was 15, I was 6'2", 215 pounds. Everything was going great for our sophomore football season. Finally started a brand new position, playing tight end. That's something I practiced for all summer, since everything before that I was a center because of the weight limit. But then one day during practice, pop. I go down and I'm wondering what the fuck is going on with my knee. Eventually I figure out that there's like ligaments and shit all down there, and I tore my MCL. This only sidelined me for a month, but I lost the starting role, lost all the playing time I was going to get, and I was scared to get hit again. After the season, I told myself that nothing would stop me from playing varsity football. I tried out for basketball, and I should have known that it was not a good call because I was not fully recovered. During tryouts, I went up for a layup, and when I landed, I heard my entire knee crack. I fell to the floor, screaming and rolling around. Patellar subluxation. Sophomore year basketball, it was over before it even began. So I turned my focus back to football. I go into junior year killing it in the weight room, and I was getting better, relatively. I was getting better at the whole 7-on-7 thing. I wasn't good enough to play varsity. I end up playing JV and getting moved back to center because they needed extra guys. I still promised myself that the next year, senior year, I'd be the guy. I tried out for basketball junior year, and I made it. Made the JV team, but let me tell you, this motherfucker was not a basketball player anymore. I only made the team because I was stronger than everyone else out there. So basically, I'd only get put into games if coach needed a starter to save his fouls, or he just wanted to see a kid get lit up or something. But in basketball, Rockers had a special rival. A rival that is always the biggest game of the year. So why don't you take a guess who the coach of that rival school is? It's my father. You know the whole Darth Vader scene where he's telling Luke that he's finally his father? Yeah. Every time I tell people about Eastern Rockers, that's how I feel. My coach promised me a starting role in that week's Friday night matchup because he knew what it meant to me. Even if I knew that he was going to pull me out and I was just going to ride the bench after maybe 60 seconds, it was just cool that I was finally going to get a start. The Friday before the game, so a week beforehand, we were practicing, and at the end of practice, coach always has us run sprints. When we finally got to the 10 and 60, which is 10 down and backs in 60 seconds or less, I was toe-to-toe with the fastest guy on the team. I kept yelling at him, talking smack, because my fat ass should not have been even relatively close to him, but he was not working as hard as I knew that he could. We rounded the last corner, and I remember hitting the floor, screaming, "Fuck," as loud as I could, and seeing my entire kneecap pop back into place. Take your guess, patellar subluxation. Again. 6 to 8 weeks of recovery time. I remember sitting in the training room, just crying, because I missed one of the last chances to play against the man who taught me the game itself. I recovered, but that was the end of my basketball career. I didn't know it at the time, but it was. I lost all my motivation for the first time in my life. I stopped worrying about school, family, football. I ended up flunking second semester chemistry, and I had to take summer school. I was so mad that I told my coaches I was done with football. The coaches finally talked me out of it, and I remember what I initially wanted and that was to wear my dad's high school number and to make him proud of his only son. I went back to focusing on football. I went to college camps, practiced catching, route running every single day, lifted almost every single day, the whole 9 yards, until August came. I was playing pickup basketball with some friends, and I came down from a shot on my friend's ankle. High ankle sprain. And I've had low ankle sprains like plenty of times, never had a high one. Let me tell you, that bitch hurt. Like, hurt almost as bad as tearing my freaking MCL. Like, it was awful. I got put in a boot for a week, crutches for a week, and I was told it would heal anywhere between 3 to 6 weeks, but it would be a nagging pain. That's all I had to hear. That I wasn't going to be able to come back the next day. Because I knew in my mind, if I couldn't go out the next day for practice, I was done. I quit internally and externally. I started skipping practice, skipping film, skipping weights, everything that a quitter would do. Everything but own up and tell the coach that I quit. Because it was never the coach that I was worried about telling. It was going home to my father and telling the truth. The truth that I gave up all my hopes and dreams of playing college football. The truth that I gave up for a state title. The truth that I was a quitter. That I had no drive to beat adversity. The truth that I gave up everything I worked so hard for. I lost all my confidence, all my drive for school and family, everything. I got beat down by football, by injuries, by school, by life. Because I let life beat me down. I just sat there and I took the punches. It wasn't until I finally graduated that it just clicked. I honestly couldn't even tell you what happened, but I remember walking into college saying, this is my new fresh start, and I'm not ever going to let life get the best of me again. No matter the circumstance, I'm going to hold my head high and know that through God, I can do anything. The point of my story is that don't give up on your dreams. Fight for what you love, what you have a passion for. I know what it's like to give up on something that you've worked so hard for, to let that slip away just because you have fear. Fear is only there because we let it be there. Fear is self-constructed. We can control our own fear, and we can turn it around and use it as motivation. Never give up. It's never worth the price. Whew. Okay, so you've heard part of my story. Now it's time for the last part. The thing that motivates me. Something a lot of people may not expect. My mom. Okay, so I'm going to try to explain this entire section without tearing up, so just try and bear with me on this one. If you don't already know, I lost my mom about 10 months ago. She was just 45 years old. Let something else be known, we had absolutely no idea she was going to die. It was a complete shock to us all, which made it all the worse. I always remember sitting in my classroom at Benedictine College on a random February, Tuesday afternoon, listening to my teacher, the dean of students, talk about the First Amendment, and seeing my dad walk up to the door. Now, listen to me. My heart fucking sank. My dad is a busy man, and this is in the middle of basketball season. The fact that he drove an hour and a half to Benedictine means that I must have did some really stupid shit this time. I remember sitting there trying to calculate all the stupid shit together and figure out, oh shit, what am I going to get in trouble for? Is this worse? Is this worse? Fuck, I don't know. So the class ended and the dean dismissed me. I followed my dad into some random office thinking it was going to be me, him, and the dean talking something out. But when I walked in, I saw my 16-year-old sister sitting with my grandpa, bawling. That's why I knew something was wrong. My dad turned to me and he hugged me, tearing up himself. That never happens. He explains to me that my mom passed away in her sleep the night before. My whole world stopped. I couldn't see, I couldn't hear, I couldn't think. Nothing. It was almost like I died myself for a second. I fell back into reality. I had to keep it together walking across campus to my car. Last thing I wanted people to see was the entire Hare family walking across Benedictine College's campus bawling their eyes out. So we drove right home, then and there. And when we made it, I finally veered off and I went to my mom's house. I was begging God that this had to be some type of misunderstanding. I knew that it wasn't, but I just needed some type of closure. I sat on the front porch of my mom's house for an hour and just sobbed. Sobbed like a baby. My world began to stop again. I didn't eat, I didn't drink, I didn't even want to work out. I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't touch my phone for 4 days. If I used an electronic, played music on my computer. I sat in my room for hours, played the same couple songs that my mom and I would always listen to, and I just cried. I constantly was asking, why her? Why now? Why God? Why do we have to do this? And I lost my faith in God. I stopped believing He was even there. At times I wanted to die myself so I could just go up there, hug my mom, tell her I love her one last time, because I never got that fucking chance. But then, during the funeral, I swear to God, she came down and she smacked me across the face. My mom and I had a very special relationship, and she acted very differently around me than she would with other people. She was herself, and I loved her. But I could hear her voice. Luke, shut the fuck up, you big crybaby. Get up. I'm fine. I'm at peace. I love you. Now it's time for you to keep making me proud. Sitting there crying is not gonna do shit. Get up. The world's not ending today. I wasn't gonna speak at the funeral, so I didn't think I was strong enough. I finally got over that when I felt like it was my job. Because I was the oldest, it was my job to be strong. But right before I was about to speak, I thought again, I'm too weak to get up there. And there she goes again, smacking me right across the face. I got up there, and it was almost like she spoke through me. It was happy, it was funny, it was sad, but it brought everyone together one last time. It was the best closure I probably could have asked for, and she knew I needed it. To this day, the hardest part of losing Mom was always not being able to say goodbye. But she told me to always look at the bright side and all the good things that happen rather than the bad. Let me tell you a little bit about my mom so you know why she motivates me. My mom had a tough fucking life. She had a good life, but she had a tough life. She started smoking cigarettes when she was 15, and she only stopped when she had me and Grace, and when I got her to back freshman year in 2015 through a tweet. She got into drugs and alcohol in college and eventually became an alcoholic. Her and my dad would fight all the time, and eventually when I was 6, they got divorced. My mom moved back to Marshfield, Missouri. That's where she grew up. And she ended up dating a Marine with extreme PTSD. He was aggressive, he was big, and he was really scary all the time. I didn't like him, my dad didn't like him, my mom's dad didn't like him, and eventually it showed. Started breaking things, yelling louder, pushing my mom around, And I learned at a young age to hate being small and to hate men who take advantage of people that are smaller than them. And I promised myself that I would never be like that. I would be a protector. One day he finally trapped my mom in the bathroom. I took a butcher knife in the kitchen and I jumped on his back. And I had no idea what I was doing. I just thought, things that you see on TV as a kid. I lost the knife, fell completely to the ground. I remember that it hurt. I don't really remember what happened after that, except that my mom got a hold of the police. And because it's a town of only 5,000, they got there pretty fast. I know he was arrested, but he was later released on no charges. My mom got a restraining order, but she eventually had to move back to KC and enter a safe home to get away from him. Safe home wasn't all bad, but my dad wasn't allowed anywhere near the premises, so we had a remote location where we had pickups and drop-offs. My mom bounced around with jobs, cars, everything you could think of, but she still found time to smile and hug Grace and I. She eventually moved on to the Plaza area and the Brookside area. She started dating another prick of a guy. It wasn't long till we found out that he was a drunk and a meth abuser who was also aggressive. I was 12 years old at the time, so I felt, like all tough and, all that kind of shit. But he probably could have thrown me out of the way anytime he wanted to, but I refused to get out of the way. And I told him, you're going to have to go through me if you want to get to her. And that's just what I learned at a young age to do, to protect Mom. He was eventually taken away by the police, and he got the help we thought that we needed him to get, but didn't really work out like we wanted to. My mom eventually had a fallback with alcohol, and she had to go live in a treatment home herself. She eventually passed, though. She got out, and everything went up from there. We moved a couple more times over the next few years, new apartments, new cars, new jobs, but she would still smile every single day. She eventually moved into a duplex that we would have for almost 5 years. This duplex brought us so many amazing memories, but also a lot of pain. This duplex served as my HUD for my Xbox days, my go-to place to drink in high school, place I'd bring all my girlfriends home to meet Mom, the place where Mom decided on her career path and to go back to school to get her degree. But it was also the duplex where my mom and I got into the biggest fight of our lifetime, and the duplex where the so-called reformed meth head tried to come back and make a little reappearance. My mom and I got into a huge fight over something absolutely meaningless, and it ended up being 5 months of us not talking whatsoever. It was the worst mistake I ever made, shutting her out of my life. At the time, I thought it was right, and I thought I was being tough by doing it, but I knew it was wrong. One day in October, I was on my way to an out-of-town BCWS soccer game in Iowa, and my car broke down in Kansas City. I was a freshman at Benedictine, and while I was getting it fixed, I started going through my phone, just looking at pictures. I was at the dealership for hours. And as I was scrolling through, it was just picture after Mom, picture of Mom, picture of Mom, picture of this with Mom, this with Mom. And I started crying. And listen, I don't cry very often, so I knew that was God telling me, hey son, let's get your shit together. It's time to go home and apologize. And to this day, I will never forget the moment when I saw her face when I walked through the door and hugged her for the first time in months. It was one of the best feelings. I'm not even going to go into detail with the meth head reappearance ordeal, because it's just not even worth my time. But just know that I was almost 20 and I was not having any more of his bullshit. That's all I'll say there. My mom went through a lot of hardships in her life, but through all the hardships, she still went back to school and got her degree. It took her 8 years, but she got it. She, after all the trouble with drugs and alcohol for her, decided that she wanted to help people like her, so she became a social worker. She became a drug and alcohol abuse counselor. She wanted to help people like her so they wouldn't even have to make the hard choices that my mom had to make. My mom succeeded and beat life because of Grace and I. We were her motivation not to drink or smoke. We were her motivation to finish school. We were her motivation to go to work every day. Otherwise, I don't know what would have happened. I've even always been scared that someday I would be an alcoholic, so sometimes alcohol scares me. But I also think that my mom would come down here and kill me herself if I threw away everything I've worked so hard for just to get drunk or high. I think ultimately the reason God pushed me towards becoming a cop is the same reason He pushed my mom to becoming a drug and alcohol abuse counselor, to help the less fortunate than me. That's all I've ever wanted to do, is to help people. And I learned that from my mom, that's what needs to be done. My mom went through some shit, and I mean a lot of shit. Some shit that most people cannot handle. She could have laid down and just quit anytime, but she never did. She got knocked down every fucking day, and she always got back up. Always. Even maybe when she didn't even want to, she did. Because she knew she had to do it for me and Grace. When she passed last year, I knew there was only one thing from her house I wanted, and it was her degree. That degree meant everything to her. And it symbolized not only a decade, but a lifetime of hard work and commitment, even through the toughest times. I've had that diploma sitting in my room since she passed. And if I'm really struggling with life, I look at it and I know that I can't quit. Not now, not ever. There's too much to lose from quitting. And my mom taught me that. My story isn't miraculous. My motivation isn't anything insane. This is not fantasy. This is life. Real life. My life. My story shows who I was and who I am today. And my motivation shows the most important aspect of my life. And that's family. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And I want to give a special shout out to my dad, my stepmom, my sister Grace, my cousin Danny, my roommate Bubs, and my girlfriend Megan, who have constantly supported me through this incredible journey. This athlete search has been an absolute blast, and it's been one of the best things that I've ever done. And like I said in the beginning, whether I'm the #1 winner or I was never even a possibility, I will continue to work hard, laugh often, and love what I do. I love this company, and thank you. We are First Phorm.